I was a curious person by nature and loved exploring abandoned places. So when I heard about the old mansion on the outskirts of town, I was eager to check it out. The mansion was rumored to be cursed, and many people claimed to have heard strange noises and seen eerie lights coming from the place at night. But I was determined to find out the truth, and so I set out to explore the mansion. As I approached the mansion, I could feel an aura of dread and terror surrounding the place. The mansion was in ruins, with broken windows, creaky doors, and a roof that was ready to collapse. I pushed the heavy wooden door open and stepped inside. The interior was dark and creepy, with cobwebs hanging from the ceiling and dust covering the floor. I started exploring the mansion, moving from room to room, and with each step I took, I felt more and more uneasy. I could hear strange noises, whispers, and footsteps coming from nowhere, and every now and then, I would catch a glimpse of a shadowy figure out of the corner of my eye. I was starting to feel like I was being watched, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being followed. As I reached the top floor, I stumbled upon a room that was locked from the outside. I was determined to find out what was inside, and so I forced the door open. The room was dark, with a musty smell and a sense of foreboding that was palpable. I lit a match and looked around, and that's when I saw it. A figure was standing in the corner, its back turned to me. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, and I was about to turn and run when the figure suddenly turned around. I was face to face with the most horrifying creature I had ever seen. Its skin was ashen, its eyes were hollow, and its mouth was twisted into a snarl. I stood there, frozen with fear, as the creature started moving towards me. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move, and the creature was getting closer and closer. That's when I heard a voice whisper in my ear, "You should never have come here. This place is cursed, and you are now a part of its eternal darkness." I woke up in my bed, drenched in sweat, with a feeling of unease that I couldn't shake. I tried to convince myself that it was just a nightmare, but the memory of the creature stayed with me, haunting me every night. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, but the feeling of dread never went away. I was plagued by nightmares, and I could hear whispers and footsteps following me wherever I went. I started to feel like I was being consumed by the darkness, and I was losing my mind. One night, as I was lying in bed, I heard a voice whisper, "Come back to the mansion and face your fears." I knew then that I had to return to the mansion and confront the creature that had been haunting me. I made my way back to the mansion, and this time, I was not alone. I was armed with a flashlight, a camera, and a sense of determination to uncover the truth. I entered the room where I had seen the creature, and there it was, standing in the corner. I took a step forward, and the creature started moving towards me. This time, I didn't run. I stood my ground, and the creature stopped in front of me. It whispered, "You have broken the curse. You have faced your fears and proved that you are not afraid. You have set me free, and I will no longer haunt this place." With that, the creature disappeared, and I was left alone in the room. I felt a sense of relief and peace wash over me, and I knew that the curse had been broken. I left the mansion, never to return again. But the memory of that night stayed with me, and I often wondered if the creature was truly gone or if it was still out there, waiting for its next victim. But I also knew that I had faced my fears and triumphed, and that knowledge gave me the strength to face anything that came my way. I grew up in a small town in the countryside, and my childhood home was a cozy little cottage surrounded by fields and forests. My parents had passed away when I was young, and I was raised by my grandparents. They were kind and loving, and our home was filled with laughter and happiness. However, strange things started happening when I was about 10 years old. At first, it was just small things, like objects moving on their own or doors opening and closing by themselves. But then, the disturbances became more frequent and intense. I would hear footsteps in the hallway, whispers in my ear, and see shadowy figures in my room at night. I was terrified, and my grandparents tried their best to comfort me, but they couldn't explain the strange occurrences either. They thought it might just be my imagination playing tricks on me, but I knew what I was seeing and hearing was real. As I got older, I left the cottage to attend university, and I was relieved to be away from the constant disturbances. But the memories of my childhood home stayed with me, and I often wondered if the haunting was still happening. Years passed, and my grandparents passed away, and I inherited the cottage. I decided to return to my hometown and renovate the cottage, hoping to restore it to its former glory. But as soon as I stepped inside, I knew that something was wrong. The disturbances had returned, and they were even stronger than before. I would hear footsteps in the hallway, whispers in my ear, and see shadowy figures in every room. I was trapped in my childhood home, and I was terrified. I tried to leave, but every time I tried, I felt a force holding me back, preventing me from leaving. I knew then that I had to face my fears and confront whatever was haunting my home. I gathered all my courage, and I went from room to room, searching for the source of the disturbances. And then, I found it. In the attic, I discovered a trunk filled with old diaries and letters, belonging to a woman who lived in the cottage many years ago. I read through the letters, and I learned that the woman was haunted by the same disturbances that I was experiencing. She was trapped in her own home, just like I was, and she was never able to escape. I realized then that the haunting was not just in my imagination, but a manifestation of the woman's fear and desperation, trapped in time and space. I knew what I had to do. I gathered all the letters and diaries, and I burned them, releasing the woman's spirit and breaking the curse that had been trapping her and me in the cottage. As I stepped outside, I felt a sense of relief and peace wash over me. The disturbances had stopped, and I was finally free. I left the cottage, never to return again, but the memory of my childhood home and the haunting will stay with me forever. I had always been fascinated by the unexplained, and I had always been searching for the truth behind the world's greatest mysteries. That's why I decided to join a group of amateur investigators who were looking into the case of a missing person in a small town. The person in question was a young woman who had disappeared without a trace, and the townspeople were at a loss as to what had happened to her. My team and I arrived in the town, eager to start our investigation and uncover the truth. We started asking questions, speaking to locals, and gathering any evidence we could find. But the more we investigated, the more strange things started happening. We would hear strange noises in the night, see shadows moving in the corner of our eyes, and feel a sense of unease that we couldn't explain. One night, as we were walking back to our hotel, we heard a strange whisper in the wind, calling out the name of the missing woman. We followed the voice, and it led us to a small park on the outskirts of town. In the center of the park, we found a large tree, and under its branches, we discovered a small wooden box. We opened the box, and inside, we found a journal that belonged to the missing woman. As we read through the journal, we learned that she had discovered a dark secret about the town and its people, and she was in danger. The journal was filled with cryptic notes and warnings, and it was clear that the woman was terrified. The journal also contained a map, marking the location of a hidden underground chamber beneath the tree in the park. We knew we had to find that chamber and see what was inside. We followed the map and dug beneath the tree, and we finally found the entrance to the chamber. We descended into the depths, our flashlights illuminating the way. And then, we saw it. In the center of the chamber, there was a large stone pedestal, and on it, there was an ancient artifact, pulsing with a strange, otherworldly energy. As we approached the artifact, we felt a sudden wave of terror wash over us, and we knew that we had to get out of there. But it was too late. The moment we touched the artifact, we were transported to another world, a world of darkness and terror. We were trapped, and we knew that we might never return. The story of our disappearance spread quickly, and the town was haunted by the memory of what had happened to us. The journal and the artifact were never found, and the mystery of our disappearance remains unsolved to this day. But I know the truth, and I know what happened to us in that underground chamber. And I pray that nobody else will ever have to experience what we did.